Without a doubt, Norway is a fantastic country with captivating nature. But is Norway really the country with the best quality of life? Join us to discover everything that this Nordic country offers to its inhabitants and tourists. We can begin by saying that starting in the year 2021, Norway became the country with the highest development index, and with that progress, the UN as the best country to experience that in the year 2009. Likewise, it has won several awards, such as the happiest country in the world in 2017, passing Denmark, which occupied first place. With this, we begin to see the quality of life experienced in this territory, and the homicide rate is below 0.58 per 100,000 inhabitants. Just to give you an idea, in the year 2014, only 2 shots were fired in the entire year. It is almost impossible to see a confrontation between criminals with the police in this country. There are supermarkets that have smart checkout. Many attribute this to the fact that it is a country with a high reading percentage and that they spend an average of 50 euros on books annually. In addition, more than 2,000 new books are published in the country every year. Will they be motivated to read? Anyone who publishes a book, the Norwegian government will buy 100 copies and distribute them to libraries to encourage reading. Tell us, does this happen in your country? Let us know in the comments and what country you're watching from. Now let's talk about the natural resources that surround this country. We tell you that they have many waterfalls. In fact, the highest in Norway, Vinnufossen, measures no more and no less than 860 meters, making it the 6th highest in the world. And if by chance you want to visit it, the most practical thing is to do it from Ålesund or Trondheim, and it would take about 3 hours by car to reach the protagonist of one of Norway's curiosities. On the other hand, they have few volcanoes, and a strange curiosity is that a penguin named Niels Olaf received the title of Colonel Chief of the King's Guard and was nominated by the king himself of the country. But one of the incredibly fascinating things in everyday life is that Norway's oil fund alone is worth around $1 trillion, yet the country only spends 3% of the fund per year, which is why they are saving money for the next generation. In that sense, we can name one of the most famous and recognized places in Norway, which is Grandeur Fjord, which has been part of the UNESCO World Heritage List since 2015. Let's remember something. Perhaps the terms that this country uses are different from ours, but many of those words remained from the Viking era. So we can say that the word fjord probably comes from the Norwegian word fjord, which in turn derives from the Old Norse fjordur, which in its original sense was used to designate similar bodies of water, to lakes that the Vikings could use for sailing. Did you find it interesting? Share this video with your friends and acquaintances so they know some of the Viking words used by these Nordic countries. And if we talk about their economic activities, the Norwegian court is so compassionate towards nightclubs that it was determined that stripping is a form of art, so it should be exempt from value-added tax. Norwegians enjoy a high quality of life that is built on the basis of large state investment. A curiosity about Norway has to do with the origin of its name that can even lead to disagreement among different etymologists. However, most of them consider that the name of the country has the meaning on the way to the north, being an adaptation of the language. Old Norse Norveg, that's why initially the name of the country was Norger, but later it was modified to what we know today. Norway is located in northern Europe in the so-called Scandinavian peninsula. The history of Norway is quite old and includes peoples among others, ancient like the Vikings. Being surrounded by coasts, it has Lake Hornindalsvatnet, located in central Norway. It is the deepest lake in Europe with a depth of 514 meters. Currently, Norway has nearly 5 million inhabitants who enjoy a high quality of life. The country has a modern infrastructure and a very diversified economy. Mostly urban Norway is heterogeneously distributed throughout the national territory, predominantly in areas with climatic conditions more favorable to habitation. The largest cities in terms of population in Norway are Oslo, Bergen, and Trondheim. Population growth has been maintained especially due to immigration that has increased substantially in recent years. The country receives many immigrants from both more developed countries in Europe and refugees from the poorest regions of the globe. Moving on to another topic, Norway has some of the prisons that treat prisoners most humanely in the world that can be seen. Even in the prisons where the most dangerous criminals are held, the focus of the country's prison system is to recover to the citizen and not only to punish him. And that is exactly why there is always a concern to offer them a dignified life. So we can say that this country is a very developed and industrialized nation. The local economy is quite diversified with important points in all economic sectors, that guarantee the solidity of the national currencies. The Norwegian primary sector is characterized by the exploitation of oil and natural gas fundamental elements for the generation of wealth in the nation. Norway also has reserves of various mines. In its lands, the extraction of wood and fishing activity are also prominent in the primary sector. Likewise, the country is marked by industries for the benefit of natural goods, such as metallurgy and steel, as well as capital goods factories, such as machines and equipment. For example, the production of aluminum is quite traditional in the country. The high technology is also the protagonist of the secondary economy, and the tertiary sector, for its part, has transportation as its strong point. All this without taking into account that commerce has an important part of the world fleet of ships and ships, maritime transport being one of the important loads for the country's economy. In this way, tertiary activities include financial institutions and commercial logistics, Norwegian culture, with musical production mainly focused on heavy metal. But we can also name other prominent rhythms such as jazz, as well as musical dances and folk festivals clearly associated with Viking culture. Do you like these musical genres? If so, leave us a like and subscribe to this channel so that we can continue growing and learning together about these interesting facts. Regarding its diet, Norway is based on meats such as salmon and cod, as well as breads and vegetables that are mostly domestic production. We're doing well so far. However, we must inform you that driving drunk does not exist. In addition to losing your license, you pay a fine according to your salary. There is the case of a millionaire heiress who paid $30,000 in fines since she was found speeding while drunk. Generally, she cannot pass the 80 to 100 km on the routes within the city, are 30 to 40 kilometers per hour, and no one drives more than the one in front in Norway. Everyone follows the rules because of the very high fines that have the peak traffic time is at 3 o'clock it's late. They don't stop on schedule. Norway has been considered the best place on the planet for a woman to be a mother, and this data was presented based on the analysis of several important factors in that situation, such as maternal and infant mortality rates, and also economic situations and the level of education. Norwegians are super punctual. Oslo, being the capital, is the safest city imaginable. Even if someone walks talking on the phone in the street or just using it, it is safe. There is no feeling of insecurity that is felt in other countries. This is considered the safest point. Positive from Norway, and you can feel peaceful walking alone on the street at 11 at night and be sure that you will not be assaulted. The disadvantage is that Norway is one of the countries with one of the highest costs of living in Europe, so you have an idea of how public security in Norway develops in the year 2014. For example, the police fired 2 shots only throughout the year and no one was injured from 2002 to 2014. 2 people died facing the police, a reality that was really different from that of other countries. But something very positive is that in Norway you can drink water from the tap. Anywhere there is no concept of buying water in bottles like in other countries. In fact, you're probably familiar with Voss water. It's very expensive. You will say, and it was even believed that the water came from a glacier. However, a report on Norwegian television, TV2, revealed that its origin is much more homemade. What do you think? Comment on any other information about this country, like share and remember in our previous video, we talked about Thailand. We are waiting for you in our next video with more interesting information.